All right, good morning. Good morning. Good morning to everyone in the room and to everyone online right now. Thank you for being here. Wonderful to see you. So, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Evan Ivory Long. I'm one of the speakers here at AYPN. And before we start or get into our speakers, I wanted to take a moment to just kind of set an intention and ground us. We're all here because we're either going through some change or want to implement some change in our life. And we want to hear the stories of other people who are implementing that change or what it is that they're shifting right now. So take a moment for yourself. If you're sitting or even if you're standing, you can do the standing as well. Just roll your shoulders a few times, roll them back. Yes, loosen it up, adding some movement, rolling forward a few times. And then once you're done with that, go ahead and rest them down at your side. You can place your hands on your lap if you're seated, or just place your hands in front of you and gently close your eyes and take a deep breath in. And exhale fully. And let's do that 2 more times. Inhale. Exhale. Last time, inhale. And exhale. And if you haven't already, just gently close your eyes and bring yourself inward for a moment. And notice how you're feeling today. Notice how your body's feeling. Are you carrying any areas that have tension? If so, just bring your mind there, rest your awareness there, and breathe into it, allowing it to be where it is right now, encouraging it to relax and open up. That space could be your leg, or maybe it's your heart today. Breathe into your heart. Allow it to relax and come to a state of balance, peace, and open to what messages may be coming through for you today. Open to hearing that guidance that's coming through one of the speakers, or maybe just being in the room, being open to the energy of change, transformation, of shifting, moving into different states, moving into a different phase. And allow your mind to be open. Noticing what mindset you might have today. And I encourage you to have a growth mindset. And take another deep breath in. And exhale. And just think of something you're grateful for in this moment. Hold that energy, hold that joy. And then when you're ready, gently open your eyes. Thank you. So, to get started, I'm going to invite up our hosts, Isabel and James, and they're going to lead us into the next section. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Evan. Welcome, everybody, to Activate Your Power Now. August theme, Activate Change. Who here is a stranger to change? Raise your hand. Who's never experienced it? Nobody raised their hand, and I'm sure nobody at you raised your hand at home either. At least if you did raise your hand, we want to hear your story. But change affects us all, right? Change has been happening since the day we were seated, or maybe we shall even say before we were even seated, right? Evolution is just something that is. So what if we can tap into that truth, celebrate it, give thanks, and take charge of our life?
But change itself can be so, it can lead you down paths that are unknown. Right. And then when you're walking down paths of change, especially if it's change that's coming from external and you feel like it's out of your control, It can send your mind into spirals of fear. But what is it that you're really afraid of? I'm saying that from a perspective of being in change right now in my life, a transition, a pivot of where I'm asking myself, why is my mind so afraid of doing something different, of stepping into a space that I know is right for me, but yet at the same time, my body gets tight in the morning. I'm like, did I make the right decision? Am I walking the right path? Ask myself those questions, but at the same time, I know I'm walking the right path. So when we are in that position of change, we're asking ourselves, what is stopping me, from making consistent decisions and consistent actions, especially when I'm rooted in my purpose, when I'm rooted in understanding that I am walking a path of greater light, greater intention in my life. So with that, let's bring up our first speaker.
Who's no stranger to change. This speaker, I want to go ahead and point out real quick, not only did he have the big transition of change in his life where he was only 15 years old and got sentenced to prison in an adult facility. And from that point on, for many years on, he was in and out of prison, in and out of prison, in and out of the system. He broke that cycle and made change in his life. Now he's a global speaker. He motivates people daily with a podcast. He goes live every day with Coffee Cup Chuck, staying positive, reminding us to stay positive. He started his own business, which is now very successful here in the Metro with a lighting business. And now he's stepping into something just like James, just like myself, and just like many of us in the room and many of you listening, into a new venture, right? Change, just because you've grown into something awesome doesn't mean that there's not still room to grow into something even bigger and more awesome. So I congratulate Chuck. We're grateful to have him here today, and let's bring him up.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
First and foremost, I want to pay homage to our sponsor today, Tia 87 Spot Nutrition.
Yes.
Yeah. And I also want to give it up for our organizers today, Izzy and James, for providing us speakers today the platform to actually share our messages on. So give it up for them. And I want you guys to give it up for yourselves for showing up today in person and online. Today I want to speak to you guys about change and the chances that we receive to make the changes that we want to make in our lives to get where we want to be. Sometimes those chances are willing chances to change, and some of those chances are forced into us to make those changes. By round of hands, how many of you in the room and how many of you watching today have ever been forced into making a change?
Yes.
It's a lot of hands. That's a lot of hands. Today I want to talk to you about an individual I met back in 2007 while doing prison time in a federal prison in Sandstone, Minnesota. This guy was forced into change. He had been getting into a lot of trouble, and that trouble kept sending him back and forth to jail. And his family, the people who had to continuously support him when he went to jail, his family finally came to a conclusion that they had to force him to change. So they started supporting this man beyond belief. They visited him as much as they could. They sent him money. They wrote him letters. And the biggest thing is they sent him educational material to help him transfer his mind into a fixed mindset over into a growth mindset. Now, in the process of this man making his change, which he was making a change, he was making a great change. He also wanted to help other people change. So he would let other inmates like myself use some of the equipment and material that he was receiving. And like I said, this man was a good dude. He literally started changing his life, even though his family had to force him to do it. One day, though, while dressing, getting ready for his visit, while preparing for all of his family to travel states over to visit him for the next 2 days, and he used to get these visits a lot, all of a sudden he didn't get the visit. His people didn't show up. He worried because this wasn't like them. So he tried calling. He couldn't get any answer. A couple days went by. He still hadn't gotten any answer. The guards came in and removed him from the unit. In the process of them removing him from the unit, it raised question to the rest of the inmates of why they were removing him from the unit. Because this guy was a good guy and he was helping a lot of us make changes in our life that we needed to make in our lives. Well, unfortunately, days later, we found out from one of the inmates that worked in intake that this gentleman lost his whole entire family in a rollover accident in an RV that they were traveling in to come visit him. In the process of that happening, what do you think happened to that man? He blamed himself. He blamed himself. Why? Because in the process of him being forced to change, he put his family, the ones that were closest to him, in a predicament to where they eventually lost their lives. So he blamed himself big time for that. And in the process of this happening, what do you think it did to the rest of us inmates? It gave us an understanding that just because you believe that the choices that you're making in your life, the changes that you're unwilling to make on your own are just affecting you, they're not. They're affecting anyone that's attached to you through love and through care. So, are the chances that you're making, are the chances that you're receiving to make changes in your life, are they being forced? Or are you willing to make them? And if it's hard for you to make those changes in your life, maybe you should probably try making those changes for somebody else. Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. So how many of us were at an age one time who we didn't have that bigger understanding of that our decisions, our actions actually do affect more than just yourself? I mean, I'll be the first to raise my hand because I was very selfish in my actions for many years, many years. I just didn't understand what that effect looked like. So I'm just grateful to now be centered in that truth, right? Practice being grounded, practice being present, practice having that greater understanding, that eagle-eye view of what's really going on and why we're really here on this earth in this life that we're living.
And at the same time, coming back to the understanding that even if changes do happen and they're out of our control and they're forced in our lives, to kind of fall on the understanding that sometimes it's necessary for us to walk down that path of just greater understanding of who we are and, digging deep within ourselves and realizing that we do have those resources and we do have the ability and the capacity and the will to overcome any obstacle that may come into our life, and bringing us back to ourselves and what Evan did earlier, into a space of pause and reflection and learning how to listen, so in the future we can avoid those type of situations where we're getting cut along the way and getting dragged versus walking with the change and realizing we have that ability to be more present as life moves us through a roller coaster, and not be as fearful and resistant to that. So thank you. Oh, Chuck left, but
Right. No, we definitely appreciate him and appreciate his time that he shares here and sharing his story. So it's time to go ahead and welcome our second speaker. She has been consistent on our 2025 series, and we're so grateful for that. No stranger to change. She's been sharing that story with you the last couple of months of, her life being on the line. She's dealt with challenges throughout her life, but she reached a point where she almost died. And that was the spark for her gaining the understanding that it was all with greater, super powerful purpose. So welcome, Shannon.
Thank you, Izzy and James. Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it's faced. That's the quote that I gave Izzy for this month. And what I had in mind when I was looking at that quote was focusing on what I have control of and what I don't. There's a lot of stuff that I haven't had control over in the last year, but looking back on it, how much control did I really have of anything to begin with?
Right.
The first one has been how I talk to myself, positive self-talk. A couple years ago, a mentor, we had just met, and one of the first things out of his mouth was, you need to change the way you talk about yourself and to yourself. I never understood how impactful that could be until I started doing it myself, until I changed my atmosphere, until I changed the people that I was around that spoke life into me, that were positive with me, that really did believe in me, and they showed it. They didn't just talk about it, they showed it. And that was a huge starting point of my change. The second one, acknowledging and trusting truth. The way I view negative things or obstacles in my life has changed as well. I look at them as challenges and opportunities rather than obstacles and setbacks. Because setbacks that I've learned, especially in this last year, can set you up for a greater outcome in the future. And the third thing that I would like to talk about is we're all created with a purpose. And about 20 years ago, I felt called to share my story. And yes, it took me 20 years to start getting up here and speaking, but life got in the way, right? This past year, my slate was wiped clean. I didn't have any life to get in the way of sharing my story. I'm going to take you back to 2004 for a minute. I went to, I always thought I had to have a platform in order to speak and make a change, make a difference in people's lives. I thought I always had to look good on paper to be able to do that. And back in 2004, I went to the Paralympic trials for powerlifting, which is the bench press in adaptive athletics. And it was a great experience. I waited at 99 pounds, spent 180.
Wow.
I didn't make it. So a couple months later, I moved to Edinburgh, Pennsylvania to do an internship. And my roommate in my first apartment ever happened to be a fellow powerlifter. And She did make it to the Paralympics. She was going to Greece in about a month after that. While she was making me about 10 pounds of spaghetti, because she was going to be gone for about a month and a half, because I didn't cook at that point, she said, "Do you want to see the rankings?" And I said, "I don't know, do I?" She gave me the rankings anyway. And they take the top 5 men and top 5 women to represent the U.S. I was number 6. And that's not the worst part. I missed it by 5 pounds. At that point, looking back on it, I was devastated at that point. I was frustrated. I didn't know what to do. I thought I didn't. And then I moved to Ohio, and then like I said, life got in the way and I never got a chance to do it again. However, fast forward to March of 2024, I was speaking to a former assistant coach that I had in college when I played wheelchair basketball, because I was trying to get into speaking. And the first question out of his mouth was, "Well, what sets you apart from everybody else? Are you a Paralympian? Do you have a business?" They were all external things. They were all, "Do you look good on paper?" At least that's what I heard. And 3 months later, God gave me a platform that I can't hide behind. I ended up in the hospital on June 20th, and I said this before, and everything changed. My slate was wiped clean. And it wasn't about what I went through. It was how I went through it that makes the difference. At least I think so. Because a lot of people wouldn't have blamed me for griping about the physical stuff, because a lot of physical stuff has changed. I'm a lot slower doing a lot of things. Things are a lot harder right now than they used to be. And I was talking to a couple of people last time I was here, and one of them said, "You probably took life for granted." And I said, "Yeah, I did. I took for granted the ability to just do things on a whim, come and go as I please, be able to drive, be able to do everything. And now asking for help has been hard. Not being able to do the little things that I've been able to do in the past has been hard. But when I was in the hospital, and this is where things were different, I chose to heal internally first, because there was nothing I could really do physically other than the positive self-talk and talking healing into my life. So I chose to heal all of my past and look at life differently. And what I found is that I never thought I was enough. I never thought that, I thought I had to be perfect in order to be enough. And I don't. All I have to show up as is me. And that's the biggest change that I've faced in the last year. And being able to share my story, and not only being able to share it with you guys, but being able to hear it come out of my mouth. When I first moved back to Kansas City in 22, I met with a friend for lunch, and we went through a lot of the same stuff with our exes. And that was the first time that I talked about it unfiltered. And when you talk to somebody like that and share your story and have them share theirs, it becomes real. We can make up so many different stories in our head to be able to make a situation sound good, make excuses for people's behavior, and so on and so forth. But when you're with people with a common mindset and similar situations that they've been through, being able to talk through it with that, like that, is powerful, and that's where true change happens. Not only if you're talking one-on-one, or if you're up here, and I would strongly recommend it because it's empowering, but you don't have to. You can do it one-on-one or in a small group, and it makes the same impact, because being able to be open and being vulnerable sheds a light on people that are stuck in the dark. And when they're stuck in the dark, when you shine your light on somebody and tell them about your experiences, it wakes them up and say, maybe I can do this too. I'm not alone. And that's the biggest change that I've come across this year. Thank you.
Activation, right? Our activation, your personal activation gives permission to other people to activate their truth as well. And if anybody's wondering what truth is, we keep talking about truth and truth and truth. That's yours to decide. We each have an individual truth because that truth is deeply rooted on experience. So I encourage you to take time to spend time with yourself and figure out what truth means to you. And that's the first step, so you can create what we call a power path process or a daily practice to ensure that you're walking in what you declare your truth to be.
And being brave enough just to, like you said, show up as who you are and being vulnerable. And that's a small action, a small change that creates so many different ripples, not only in your life, but in everybody around you, because now they're able to, they have the possibility and the chance to see you, because you have given yourself the permission to see yourself, right? By communicating who you are, by not only communicating with words, but with action, right? Showing up here and speaking and talking on this platform, or at least in your own life. That's that small change that creates long-term ripples and long-term effects in your life and everybody around you. And there's many people who are scared to share their voice, who are scared to share themselves. And it's like, what is stopping them? What are the barriers that are stopping you from truly being yourself? Like, if you love to dance, but yet, when it's time to get up there and and show yourself, and now you're like, oh, well, what are they going to say? What's going on in their mind? And that's a small example, but that ripples in other areas of your life, because how you do one thing is usually how you do everything. Right. And usually you don't see it until it's time for that mental doubt form to be exposed. But yes, just showing up as you are, trusting in the process, trusting in yourself, and being you. That's the biggest changes that we need in this world right now, because that allows love to really enter this world and the lives of everybody around us. So with that being said, we would like to welcome up our next speaker, who is also going through a monumental change in her life. This is a person who is a dear friend of mine, and she is a beautiful soul with a huge heart that is willing and has been activated on the stage many times, and she shares her wisdom, she shares her light, and she's a beacon, a lighthouse for so many people, not only me, but everybody who meets her. Let's give a round of applause for Eliasa.
Thank you. I thought I'd start with just kind of a funny when it comes to change, because it just popped in my mind as everybody was sharing this morning, because I think we've talked about blame and purpose and love, and all those things are going to be culminated into my share. And it was about 20 years ago, I was at an appointment with my son, and we were taking a walk, and he noticed this vending machine. And in the vending machine, there were chips, and he really wanted these chips. And I'm looking at him, I was like, son, I don't have any change. And he says, no, Mama, I'm dry. So how we can literally and fundamentally look at change, right? Change is the one thing that is inevitable, and it's a matter of perspective and how we see it. I said, when we were asking to share what is change, and I said, change is the catalyst to transformation. It is that place where we fundamentally shift with our intention and our purpose to do what we're called here to do, right? It is the moment in that face of adversity, is that moment that we listen to what is within us that's propelling us and to respond to what we're called, right? And as it was mentioned, I am going through some change. And looking at like, what is mine to do? Where am I going to step forward? And what am I going to be called forth to do? There was an environment that I was knowing that I was needing to make some change. I needed to find a space for me to step into my power and to hear what was mine to do. And I recognized when I was thinking of all the reasons why it could be someone else's fault, or why that, let me start over on that. I was looking at why am I doing this, right? And I teach a self-care class and a self-awareness class. And one of the things that I teach is self-care, is to look at yourself and figure out, where am I at in this moment now? And as I did that, I recognized that this isn't about someone else. It's not about blame. It doesn't excuse behaviors which may have led you up to the moment. And it's about stepping into your own power and listening to what is yours to do. And I do this through what I'm going to share with you in a story that you might recognize, told in a brand new way. And it's If I Will Just Love. And it begins in a state of illumination. You know, we come from this space of nothingness. Imagine nothingness. What is nothingness? Sometimes I think of the never-ending story, you know, there's the void, and the, do you guys know I'm talking about the never-ending story? Okay. Aging myself here. So, but there's the void. And as you're stepping in, there's this big blast, and then we're illuminated, and there's this light that is pouring forth. We have these moments of ahas, and things are pouring forth for us. That is illumination. It is when those things are made clear and brought to light out of the nothingness. And when we move from illumination, we can build a foundation, which is our faith. It is the assurance of all things hoped for, the conviction of that which is not seen. If we don't have a foundation in which we can stand, we had to illuminate it. But the foundation is where we move. It's where we can create, right? It is that space in which we can stand. And when we're standing, we can begin to imagine. That third step is imagine. Imagining the possibilities. What's in this for me? What's next? Where am I to go? The sky is the limit. I always say, think big, imagine it. Like, you got a project? Go as big as you can. You know, you figure out the layers as they come, right? And then what do? At that point, you're going to recognize it is good. And then you move into a power of will coupled with understanding. Will is about being in motion. So if you're standing and you've imagined, you can be in motion, right? And we can't be in motion until we have those other things in place. So will is about pushing ourselves forward, right? And then that understanding is compassion. It's kindness as we rest into that. And then we practice a judgment. That sounds awful, don't it? But we all judge, right? Judgment, that is discernment, where we're choosing, we're practicing a beautiful thing called wisdom. What is mine to do? And when we do that, we're listening to an innate guide that is within. Remember that moment that I said that change is the moment in which we face our adversity, right? And as we do that, we're recognizing what is ours to do. And so we move from there into love. I heard love a couple times this morning. So I've let go of all the blame, and I'm staying in that state of love. And I'm not talking about I love you, which I do, of course. But I'm talking about love that is that that's bigger than what you can imagine, right? It's a love that is a feeling. It's a love that is an experience. And you know that it's good, right? And from there, you rest. That is your Sabbath. And when you rest, you really affirm, it is good. And we know it is good because we can say, it is good all the time. All the time, it is good. So that 7-step process is called the creative process. And we get an opportunity to step into that whenever we need to. And change is the perfect moment to really look at yourself and look at practicing all those things that we do, because we can get lost in our stories. We can get lost in the details. It's very easy to do. I do it a lot. In fact, when I was going through this monumental change, there was an event that kind of precipitated, even though it was something that's been lingering on my heart for some time. But in that event, I came home and I sat and I cried. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, why am I doing this? And I need to do this. And then I'm trying to think of all the steps to move into what is mine to do. And as I did it, I sat there, I was thinking about all those tools that I've taught my kids. Like it's not about money, it's not about time, it's not about people. It's about listening to what is that innate inner calling. What is my voice in this? And when I moved into that state and I really heard what the spirit within was saying to me, I could sit in that. It's not someone else. And it's good, right? It's good. So change is inevitable. Change is good. It's raw. It's uncomfortable. It's vulnerable. And as we move through it, it is good. So if we know that if I will just love, and that's an acronym that I've come up with for illumination, faith, will coupled in understanding. Will coupled in understanding. Judgment, love, and the Sabbath. And as we practice those things, we create and we become even more. You know, they say it's always this and something better, right? So thank you.
Thank you, Eliasa. That was beautiful as always. I feel like she always puts me in a trance when she's just sharing a piece of her heart and a piece of just who she is. And I love that she's fully embraced who she is and what she is here to do. And you're bravely stepping into that future. So we honor that, we share space, and we congratulate you, and we will celebrate you along your new path. So thank you.
And at the same time, I would like to piggyback on that as well. You were talking about how change is simply a shift in perception, and it's your ability to face your own adversity. And that's right in time with when I'm going through. I'm sure other people in this audience have been through the same thing. Right changes doesn't always mean smooth transitions. So your ability to, ride those waves, but also not getting lost, right, in the commotion, and staying centered and staying grounded and using those steps of being illuminated. So there's clarity that may come that may give you the will to make that change, but then that doesn't mean that clarity stays with you the whole time. And there may be times where you get overwhelmed and you're like, why did I make that change? Because now my life is scattered. But at the same time, it's like you said, just keep on going. And at the end, you reach a point where you look back and you realize, okay, I've been sharpened along the way. And now I'm ready for my next chapter, for my next moment, for the next whatever calling that was there in the beginning, that knew beforehand why you needed to go through these steps in order to be that person forged in the fire, forged in the waters, in whatever element that calls to you, so you can stand up and be that person. So thank you for reaffirming that.
And as we step into inviting the next speaker up, I want to say that, one, we're going to take a change and a shift on the message as the next speaker is embracing and bringing to the platform a little bit of laughter on purpose, right? Intentional laughter, because that's an important part of the process as well. Is yes, I put a meme out recently and it said, don't take life too seriously, just take your belief system serious, right? Let's laugh about life. Let's laugh about what's happening, but stay rooted again in that truth and your belief and that you're showing up authentic to it. So the next speaker, he's new to the Activate Your Power Now platform. So I want to give a big, big, big welcome when he comes up, please, everybody. But he's actually Dave and I's neighbor where we live right now. So I'm a very outgoing person, but for some reason I need someone else to just break that ice for me. And then once you break the ice, it's like, okay, we're cool. I can just be me. Otherwise, I'm kind of staying in my lane a little bit. And that's how I'd been for the amount of time we had been at the apartment before they moved in, and kept to myself. But after Chris and Christina moved in, all of a sudden I'm walking to my car and I get a hello. How are you doing? How's it going? And I see him talking to my husband and I'm like, okay, we have a neighbor who's interested in meeting the community, right? Seeing who's there in his close environment in that way. And I like that. And they invited us out to Anejo, which might end up being there tonight if anybody wants to join. But invited us out, showed us a good time. We got to meet, get to know each other better. And I just realized that there were some really, really, really awesome people living in the same building as me. And we've now started to build a relationship. I've learned more about them. They're about powerful couple entrepreneurs. They both have very powerful stories. But I'd like to welcome Chris, and he's going to give us a little laughter today on what change looks like in people's life, or at least in his life. So thank you. Welcome. Come on up. Big welcome.
At first, I was like, what's she talking about? Man, that guy seems pretty cool. Let's see. First, what do they say? Long time listener, first time speaker for me. If I seem a little nervous, I am, because this is the first time I'm going to speak English. Really? No. I'm sure. All right, so this is a little bit different for me because I like to start off like jokingly, but this is something serious as far as like in the platforms that I've been. Very inspirational. I mean, it's like wow to me. So before today, I watched a lot of TED Talks because I'm usually just going, winging it when I go to the comedy clubs. But this week I was like TED Talk after TED Talk, and I'm like, no, I can't do that. I'm definitely not a TED Talker. This is not who I am, But I am gonna get a little serious right now though, because just hearing your stories and stuff like that, I'm like, okay, life is funny, but at the same time, it's not. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna talk pretty quick just on my story, and this story is gonna sound really, really familiar, but it when it happens to you, you're like, okay, you know what I'm saying? I'm not special. I'm not any different, and I get put in my place real quick. All right. So let's go back all the way back to the 80s or something like that. I was in 7th grade, and I knew I wanted to be a Marine. Like I knew it. Like I just breathed, bled, everything Marine Corps. And I told everybody, I'm gonna be a Marine. I told everybody that I'm gonna go on this date, I'm gonna graduate on this date, and I went through it. I went through boot camp. I mean, I. You know what I'm saying? I made it through boot camp. I went into the FMF, which is the Fleet Marine Force. After that, I tried out for all different things. I was real good at shooting. I even tried out for sniper school too. But Again, this was before LASIK. This is back in the 1900s. So I didn't make it because of the glasses. You know what I'm saying? So you can't have glasses while you do that. But with my scores and everything else qualified me for it, but I couldn't get past the glasses part. I was like, I don't need glasses to shoot. They're like, yeah, you do. For other things. But anyways, went through that. I got out of the Marine Corps and I got into the corporate world. And from going into the Marine Corps and getting awards for doing stuff, taking initiative, everything else, going to the corporate world, I got fired. And I was like, why are you firing me? You know what I'm saying? I took initiative, everything else. They're like, what, Chris, you have too much of the Marine Corps in you. The corporate world, in the Marine Corps, it's black or white. And in the Marine Corps, in the corporate world, it's a lot of gray area. And I didn't quite understand that because I'm like, either you're late or you're not late. So then I started accepting that change right there. But that was the best thing that ever happened to me because that's when I started my own hardwood floor company after that. I got that to be successful. I got that to run. I got people working for me. I started making a lot of money after that. I got into horses and I started training them. You know what I'm saying? I got the training. I went through all the bumps and bruises of horses, competing. I was winning all the competitions. You know, Mexican rodeos. I was winning that. I got into, I was doing all that.
Sorry,
No, it's good, it's good. I need that feedback. After I know there's a bunch of stories I'm trying to throw in here, but I do got a point. I was training with a bunch of people from Mexico that were showing me the traditional stuff like that. They didn't want to show me too much of the traditional stuff because I was born here and not over there. They're like, this is stuff that's been passed down from generations through our parents. You don't qualify. And I was like, all right. I started using the American style, but mixed it in with the Mexican style. So my training methods were different and a lot faster, more effective. But I did that. Does that make sense? After that, got that, and I thought I was gonna die on a horse. I thought this is my life. I love it. Everything else, I love my life. You know what I'm saying? And then God was like, oh, there's a bunch of eyes there. A bunch of eyes there. But there's no me in there. And about 2007, you guys know what happened about 2007, 2006, everything. I lost everything. Lost my horses, lost my brand new Mustang, brand new F-150. I lost my ranch, the house, family. My wife went one way, and I lost everything but the clothes I had. You know, does that sound familiar? Does that story sound familiar?
Oh, yeah.
I lost it all, and to the point where I had to move back in with my parents at that time. Lost it. I had to accept that change right there. But from me being really I went to like you, real quick. And that was one of the biggest changes I've made. No, that I accepted. Put it that way. That I accepted. Realized that, accepting that change, I knew where I got everything from, and I acknowledged it to everybody. And there's a saying in Spanish, and I think I told Isabel when I met with her, I was like, Dios me tiene muy cuidado, which translates to like, God really has favor for me. But whatever he gives, he'll take real quick, you know? And now, I don't say I say I'm grateful, don't get me wrong, I'm grateful, but I don't say like I used to say. Now when I say, well, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. You know what I'm saying? I've got a real quick example. I was actually telling Dave, I have a box truck company, and the box truck was breaking down. You know what I'm saying? It was breaking down because some systems, some sensors and everything was going down. To make a long story short, I took it to the mechanic, $3,800 to get it fixed. Sensors, just to get it fixed. And Christina's like, how much? I said, $3,800 just to get a sensor fixed. And she was like, but I was like, you know what, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens. And 2 days later, we took it in. Everything got fixed for free.
Wow.
For free, because it was under recall system.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, we'll see what happens. I don't sit there and say, oh, I'm gonna get it fixed. I'm gonna find that money to get it fixed. I was like, Dios me tiene buen cuidado. He takes care of me. I don't force things no more. I just go with the flow. You know what I'm saying? And I tell it to everybody. You know what I'm saying? This is the first time I'm actually saying that on a platform. Don't get me wrong. But it's really empowering knowing that somebody's got my back. And he's got a lot of people's back as well. But the Job story and me, I know what Job went through. No, not quite at that extent. Thank God, not quite at that extent. But yeah, I was there's no more I. It's us. You know what I'm saying? So thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for saying yes again, not just to activate your power now and for our selfish reasons of why we keep coming over and over and showing up for each other month after month for 4 years. But it's because we know that we each are a mirror to each other in life, right? And as new people step up and choose to share their truth vulnerably in this way, you allowed me to see a deeper version of myself. And the same for others who were meant to hear your message. But I want to say, after hearing all those great individual changes and experience you've gone through, if Christina wouldn't mind, I would love just to bring her up just to honor you two real quick as a pair, because it's the unity, right? I know a little bit about Christina's story, and I know that it's a very, very, very powerful story, right? She's living in her own experiences, but yet they've come together and they're helping to nurture and support each other through this change and this transition in their individual lives, knowing that together they're covering more ground, right? They're serving more in a bigger purpose together, and as all of us are. But I just want to honor you two as a couple, because just me personally knowing a little bit more about both of you, I'm just super, again, a reflection. You guys reflect Dave and I and our mission as we got together in pains, really, in life. We didn't know that then. It doesn't feel always so painful when you're going through it. When you look back and you're like, how did I get through that? And especially when you could keep a smile on your face doing it, you know. But you guys mirror that, to me, at least in our friendship that we're creating, of just how grateful I am that we continue to show up for each other and stuff. So thank you.
And a lot of stuff that I've gone through, there's been changes. Like there's changes all the way, and up to a certain point, I just accept things that are going on. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. I do not fight back whatsoever. I don't fight back.
That's the great surrender.
And then when I met Christina, I was like, well, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Now we got that I love Lucy mentality. We get that a lot, but you know, I see the humor.
We got a lot of explaining to do.
I'm like, oh, you did what now? No, but we mirror each other. I told her the situation, like for example, I told her the situation about the $3,000 or whatever to repair. But what does she do? She gets online, she starts researching it, and then that's where she finds all that stuff.
Teamwork.
So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that I couldn't have done without her.
Right.
She's really been very, very, very helpful to me, and I'm sure hopefully
And
the
vice
same way.
versa.
Thank
Vice
you.
versa.
But, yeah.
We appreciate you and we honor you guys. Thank you. Thank you for saying
So I do have a joke since.
Sorry, guys.
It got serious.
Right, you got you. What's the ninja's favorite drink?
Oh.
What's
Yes, love it.
my favorite dad joke right there.
I'm more serious, I kind of like it.
But yes, thank you for sharing your story. I love how you went from I to you, and then at the end it was a we, and that was a co-creation. Walking and creating the life, and flexing the muscle of surrender, right, and not resisting the change. And I find like that's probably the most difficult part of moving through change, is because from my experience, the mind only knows when it knows. And when you're stepping into unknown territories, there's no data. There's nothing for it to latch onto. Right. So now it goes into overload. Like what's going on? Your body might shake. So it's actually a skill to be calm and centered under that pressure. Knowing that it's not about me. Right. I'm being guided. I'm leading down a path that I know is leading me to where I want to be. That's going to bring my greatest joy. So if I can just surrender into that and trust in that moment, then the world is mine. Yeah. So thank you for showing that and being an example. And next we have our next speaker, which is another activator who's been on the stage for many times. He's a real great help. He was the person that guided us through some pause and reflection. And he's just very, very centered when it comes to showing up as himself and being authentic. He's a massage therapist. He's a energy healer, Reiki certified master. He wears many hats. He shows up authentically and vulnerable in that essence. So let's give a round of applause for Evan Ivory Long.
Thank you so much. Yes. I thought about it. I was like, yeah, I do wear many hats. I was like, when you take a second to actually pause and think about it, or maybe somebody else points it out to you, like, I do a lot.
Right.
So why am I so hard on myself? Yeah, so thank you, Laura, for coming up to get a front row seat. That's a nice chair. So a lot has been said that's been really great, and what I love about Activate Your Power and having the opportunity to speak is sometimes you never know what you're going to get. You never know what's going to inspire you. And you come here thinking, yeah, I'm going to talk about this. And then you hear so many other things like, man, I'm taking some notes here because, y'all are just bringing me to so many different areas, right? So many different spaces in my mind, having me reflect on so many things that have just happened and occurred in my own life where it's taken me to slow down. And even some commonalities, right? So, Shannon, you said June 20th was a day of transformation for you. And it's a day of transformation for me too, because that's my birthday, And so it's like, how can, thinking of that birthday, rebirth day, one day someone, or for someone it's them entering into life, and for someone it's having them truly live their lives, So there's just so much reflecting. So change, right? Right. I had to think about, for one, I had to think about some things that maybe I wanted to change in my life, I've had many things happen to me that have been phenomenal blessings. I'm so grateful for, because I've experienced the contrast of it. The seeds that I planted in years before have come up this year, and it can be very overwhelming, very overwhelming in the things that you're like, okay, all these things have come up that I hope for, but why do I feel so scared about it? Why do I feel so unworthy? Why do I feel so like I can't handle this, And what Chris was saying is like I was getting into the I, how am I going to be able to do this? How am I going to be able to take care of these people? How am I going to be able to continue to live my life with these circumstances? And one thing that has brought me to is your perspective, your mindset. Something I said earlier when we started was a growth mindset. And so let's say there's a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. And so a fixed mindset is what's happening to me. I can't do anything about it, so I'm just stuck. I'm going to be negative about it. Or you can think about it as what's happening to me is happening for me. You know, it's helping me to change my perspective, to put me into a different state, a different position, a different environment. And that environment or that change, that shift may not seem like it's a positive one, or that there's a silver lining to it, or that it's a good change for you. But who makes that definition? You do, yes. Someone's paying attention. So you do, right? It's how you perceive it, okay? So we're all different. Actually, all of our nervous systems perceive everything different, okay? So like, as I'm here speaking, each one of us in the room and online, you're receiving a different message. You're having a different experience than everyone. No one's experience is exactly the same. Now, we may have some similarities, some commonalities that happen, right? We've all had changes that have that are similar, but they've all been our own unique experience. And so I had to look at how I want my unique experience to be, right? One thing that I enjoy about myself, right, thinking about one of the things I'm grateful for, is that I like to look for positive elements, right? The positive in the storm, okay, the silver lining. There's been some times I've kind of attached too much to that, where I was taking myself out of the reality of the situation, that what's happening is happening because of habits and actions that I've taken in the past. And so gaining awareness, I had to gain awareness of that. I had to realize what is happening right now that I am deeming the storm or deeming negative, okay? How did I get here? How did I get here? And asking myself that question, sometimes you have to sit and pause in order to hear the answer. And you have those things come up, those thoughts come up, or maybe reminders, memories, you know, things that happened to you in your childhood, or things that maybe have happened to you just recently, but it caused so much of a shift within you that you had to change how you were operating to either protect yourself because someone hurt your feelings, and it's like, well, I don't ever want to feel like that anymore, right? So I'm going to work out, make myself look big, or I'm going to turn into the class clown so that way everyone likes me, or I'm just going to move away. I'm just going to run away. I'm going to change my environment because this environment is not good for me. But it's only not good for you if you deem it to be so, right? You can also deem it to be a training ground for you, a place for you to get stronger, to build your emotional wellness, your mental wellness, your growth mindset, shifting your perspective. And I had something happen to me this week that internally, to me, seemed like devastation is the only word that comes up. But this is how I'm perceiving it, right? Because what actually happened, right, to somebody else's perception, is like, oh, that's nothing. You know what I'm saying? I've been through this. But just honoring where I was at, I received several calls about a family member that I love not being in a healthy place right now. And I've thought about this situation actually for a long time. All right, fine. So as I get up here, I'm like, just listening to God, channeling through spirit, what it is that I need to say. This person's my mother. And the person I am today is because of my mother, because of my childhood with my mother, because my experience with her, living with her. And to make this a little bit short, my mother, I'm faced with a time that I may end up losing a connection with her. physically. And it's been very hard to wrap my mind around, even though I've thought about it for many years. It used to make myself cry thinking about it. But now I'm allowing myself to think of all those opportunities that I had, or all those experiences I had with her in my childhood, as blessings, as things that needed to happen in order for me to get to places in my life that facilitated change, that brought me more skill, that brought me more power, that put me in a position to be able to turn around and take care of her. Because she took care of me through my childhood. And to honor my mother, to honor our family, for turning around and giving back to her, and also blessing others by sharing something that's been very hard to talk about. So, to bring it back, what I had to do for me this week is to gain awareness of what it is that I have control over. And I did this by drawing 3 circles. If you're taking notes, this is what I did. 3 circles. Things that I can control, things that I can influence, and things that I cannot control, right? Putting 90% of my effort and focus into the first one. What can I control? My mindset. Taking a moment to breathe. Practice the basics, the things that you've been learning and gaining skill in your entire life, right? Second, what I can influence. The people I can influence, or what I can allow influence me. 10% of my focus and effort into that, okay? Looking at what ways can I bring what it is that I need to help me gain further control. And then the third one, 0%. I can't control when someone's time is their time. And I can't necessarily do anything about it, but I can be present. I can spend the time that's remaining with you, enjoy, remembering things that we used to laugh about, cared about. And with that, I hope that you heard something that brought you, I hope you heard what you needed to hear. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Evan. You know, we've talked before about, you know, sometimes some topics that we speak on are heavier than others. You know, we've had some pretty heavy topics that everyone who gets up, you know, it's something very deep and heavy. But thank you for bringing that to the stage, that realness and that authenticity, because I think as I was speaking with Chris and even with Nesha, the 2 new activators speaking today, I said the topic is change, activate change, you know, and it could go, the topics always go in so many different directions. I said I think it's going to be pretty upbeat, but, you know, some changes are very, 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 very tough and very challenging. And again, you know, I know in my life, it's not till my back was against the wall that I was willing to expand and explore and try anything to get through this. You know, but that challenge now, intentional living, that living on purpose with purpose, something bigger than your feelings, than your experiences, than what other people are saying and doing around you. You know, you have to, one, honor it just like you just did, and know that we're all here to hold that safe, sacred space with you. And I'm proud of you for you utilizing your tools, like you said, right? Thank you for sharing, and I would like to just share a quick intentional space for you and for what you're going through. So, thank you.
Thank you, Evan, for being vulnerable and being authentic on this platform, and to everybody who's present right now with us. You definitely our darkest moments in life usually become the catalyst for our deepest changes, right? I know there's a reverend that says our fear moves us until our vision pulls us, So it's like what Izzy was talking about. We usually don't want to change until it's the only resort we have is to change. And now we're open to many different opportunities and possibilities. So that's it can be nerve-wracking, right? It can be something that's, again, bring a lot of fear within us, but coming back into the practices and finding tools that can help you stay centered in that change, because change is not, it's positive. I mean, it's neither positive or negative. It is what it is. Mm-hmm. It changes. It's going to come in your life. It's going to happen, and how you respond to it can be positive or negative, right? Or something, it could be a mix of both. Maybe one day you're like, I got this, I'm in gratitude, and the next day you're not, right? So, but it's like being in that space and saying, okay, over time, my intention and my goal is to be more in gratitude than not, right? So, riding that wave and saying like, okay, I trust, I have my belief system that I know that regardless of what happens, I will find a way. A way will be opened up for me, whether I make it happen or, I'm opening myself up to making it happen, right? So, thank you for coming on stage again, and thank you. So we have our next speaker, and she is a positive light. Once again, she has been on this stage multiple times, and every time she comes, she does bring a vulnerable, authentic side of her, and she touches this platform with that wisdom and with that knowledge of her experiences, and she's able to integrate many different, I would say, parts of life in general, and form a cohesive flow that touches not only your mind, but your soul and your heart. So let's give it up for Jen.
I want to add real quick, Jen. I feel like you need a hug for some reason.
I will always take a hug. Thank you.
I was going to say, why did I think we hadn't brought comedy to the platform yet? You're one of the funniest people I know.
And on that note, good morning. Evan, I want to thank you for opening us with intention and causing us to pause, because sometimes we get excited, we jump right in, and I'm often that person that does that. I don't begin my day with that intention. It's like, all right, off to the races, whatever that may be. And so I want to thank you for bringing that, because you helped me pause today and change my mindset. Because in my head right now and where I have plans to run off to. I'm going to be having to jet like right after I speak. And in my head, that's all I was thinking about was, that's rude. That's rude that you got to leave. You need to stay. You have this and this and this. And you just helped me. And everybody who shared with their story has helped me be like, you know what? Just roll with it. That is the gift that we have, that we have the ability to flow with that change. So, change can occur to shake us up, but it can also occur to wake us up. And so what is it that we want to be to wake up to today? So my mind again has been very, busy schedule and all this stuff, and I just appreciate getting to sit in the passenger seat and go, okay, it's all good. Everyone in here looks to be at least 5 years old, at least physically 5 years old. 5 years ago, what happened? COVID. Exactly. Talk about a time where we are all forced into a space of change, a new pace of life, jobs, everything changed for all of us. And that was a shakeup. That was a shakeup for us. So there are those things in life, and everybody had not raised their hand earlier this morning, that we have all experienced either forced change or choice change. And I am 19 days away from entering my 40s. And
You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it, yes.
happy,
I just
I
turned
even-
60
he just
last
turned
week.
60 a few days ago, so to my brother Paul, happy 60th. I promise to stay 20 years behind you for the rest of the And so getting into my 40s, getting into this space of what do I want my life to be like? What do I want the next decade of my life to look like? And I've really not had that kind of enthusiasm and excitement because usually every day I wake up and I go, why the heck am I still here? You know, what is it I'm meant to do? What is mine to do? As you had talked about, Eliasa. And I'm actually excited to be in a space of questioning, of possibility, of contemplation. And I think it can be so easy to just stick with what is embedded and what is ingrained of this is my lane and this is where I need to be. Says who? You know, I'm a part of the, I'm a minister and a part of the unity movement. And it's a new thought spiritual path that works for me in my life. And one of our co-founders, Charles Fillmore, has this brilliant quote that says, I reserve the right to change my mind. And sometimes I think I'm like, oh, that's cute and all of that. But I was like, ooh, I reserve the right to change my mind. So now I'm in a space where I am questioning everything, beliefs, employment, relationships, how I show up. You know, even being the perfectionist that I am. I mean, I'm a tried and true Virgo, and my goodness, you know, control and perfectionism. I've got that down pat. But do I have to stay as that? Do I have to stay stuck with this because this is the identity that I know? This is what's comfortable for me. And if I change, if I step out of that, then who am I? Then I'm in the space. I love talking about vulnerability. Vulnerability is great until you're in it. So, and then it's like, if someone else is in it, I was like, you're vulnerable. Love that for you. And then you're like, oh shit, it's my experience right here, right now. And yet that is a part of it. I want to thank you so much for your service as well. I have Marines in my family. And ever since I was a little kid, I wanted to serve my country. I wanted to be in the military. And 9/11 happened. I was ready to enlist. I was a little too young, but I was ready to enlist. And so I went and tried to enlist, and I was medically ineligible for service. And in my head, I was thinking it was like the 40s. Like, let's go. Dad, sign me off. Like, here we go. And so talk about a shift in my life from a very young age, this is what I want to do and this is what I want to be. And I know, and I built my identity into that. And it didn't happen. Then what do? Then I thought, well, okay, I'll go to college. It was the only reason I went to college was so I could go and get a degree and try enlisting as an officer. And I thought, well, maybe they'll take me then. Recruiter said, we don't know how to tell you this, but you are permanently ineligible for every branch of service.
Ouch.
And I thought, what am I supposed to do with my life? Because that was everything to me. That was my identity. So I have great admiration for those who get to live that dream. And I just live mine in a different capacity now. I get to show up in a different way. And so life has been full of those shakeups. But there's a lot of power that we have within ourselves, and it was talked about as God. This is a we program. This is a we life. I know I'm a member of Narcotics Anonymous and Alcoholics Anonymous as well, and it's a we program. There's a lot of I, but it's we. It involves all of us, and even in spirituality and in just every aspect of my life. When I open myself up to this idea of we, things become so much more broad. And there are so many other options, and there's so many other influences that impact my life. And you know what that causes? Change. It causes change that allows me to see things in a different way. I know people are kind of in one camp or another with AI and ChatGPT. I mean, it can be a real conversation doozy there. But what I have found is sometimes, I know me, I am a very black and white, linear, analytical thinker. Thank you, Mom and Dad. You know, that's what I grew up with. And so I find comfort in having repetition and pattern and routine. That just works for me. Yet there are some times that I will put ideas into there into ChatGPT because I need a different perspective.
Yes.
And it's like, how do I get out of just this limited space? Not that this limited space doesn't have anything to offer,
Right.
you know, because each and every one of us have something to offer. And yet, how can I expand that? So I remain on this quest in life of how can I help other people? How can I serve other people? And what capacity does that look like? And that requires me to be flexible. That requires me to change and to adapt with it and roll with it. If I was telling a friend of mine this, I said, if I had any gift, any kind of superpower or whatever I had in life, what would that be? And I realized mine would be the ability to speak any language. Because I want to be able to connect and converse with anyone and everyone, regardless what their story is, where they live, what their history is. You know, it's so important for me to be able to connect. And I've seen my life transform as the result of spending time and conversation and being around people who don't look like me, who don't necessarily believe like me, who don't vote like me. Whatever that may be, there's something to learn from everybody. And that allows us to be able to change. So again, that only constant in life is change, and we reserve the right to change our mind.
Yes.
So I am so grateful for the stillness and the centering. I'm grateful for the inspiration and experience through all of your lives, and how you've helped change me even in this very moment. It doesn't have to be something grandiose. It can be something really small and simple. So you all are a gift, and I thank each and every one of you. Go be the change in the world that you already are.
Thank you. Thank you, Jen. You just, you reminded me of something that was very important for me and for my growth and my transformation into becoming Izzy, the intentional healer. You know, and it's that black and white. I grew up very much with the black and white also view of the world and experiences. And I learned, you know, that gray area actually, it's created, you know, truth resides where two extremes overlap. So I always envisioned a black circle and a white circle, and they're coming together. And right there, right in the truth, right? Because you bring pieces of truth from here and you bring pieces of truth from over here. And again, truth is developed through experience. So we're all it's a blessing that we all have slightly different truths. But I think as we go digging and unlayering and unfolding, we'll find that our rootedness is the same, right? We're rooted in that finding purpose and finding peace and feeling loved and feeling accepted and heard. So totally right there with you. Thank you so much.
So you mentioned about we have the right to change our mind, and that change itself shakes us up and also wakes us up. There's this movie, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. You know, saw it. Anybody see it?
Twice.
Seen it? So with that, it's a movie talking about like the quantum realm and changing timelines, the ability to shift direction. And one of the ways, they call it verse jumping. So one of the ways you can jump from one timeline to another, you spoke about, okay, this is my identity that I wanted to embody being in the military, but when that wasn't an option anymore, what now, right? What now? So in that movie, it kind of brought back to just my mind, the ability that sometimes we have to do something a little bit different. That brings us out of our mind into our heart, right? So call it a heart mind, which is the universal mind in a sense, right? So, well, one thing is like, you know, in order to access that technology of quantum leaping or verse jumping, they have to eat chapstick, right? Or say I love you at awkward times, because it's something you would never do, something you would never think of, that your mind will never say, this is what I got to do. But yet in that moment, you leave your mind, right? So you change, which mind you're tapping into. And then from there, that opens up new possibilities for you to step into. And now you can say, let me leap into this timeline and let me walk down this pathway. And now I have more creative energy coming into my life, even though it's like, it's frightening. Like, oh, even chapstick or paper cut in the middle, just random things in the movie. So,
You gotta see the movie.
right, it's just see the movie. If you haven't seen the movie, it's on Amazon Prime, I believe.
Nice.
Not sponsored, not a sponsor.
Not sponsored. But yeah, so thank you for this again, sharing your story and being open to change and sharing those points.
Yes, thank you. And we're reaching towards the end of today's event, but we always save, it's good all the way through, but we always save some of the best for last. So we're excited. I'm a little bit biased about this next speaker. She actually has known me longer than anybody else in the room here besides my husband, David. But she was the first person I met and made a connection with when I moved to the Kansas City metro area in 2014. And we worked together, and there was this rooted bond, I think this underlying similarity that we mirrored for each other, and just got to know each other, got to know each other's families. She's held space for not only me in my life, she's held space for people in my family. I love her so much, and I love her family, and I'm so proud of her for stepping into her truth today and activating her story and sharing it with the world, because I know that it's going to inspire many. Her existence has already inspired me so much in my own life, and she'll get into her story. But when I was diagnosed with cancer in 2020, the first person I thought of, it wasn't my family members, I had to get a hold of Nesha, because I felt that she was going to be the one to be able to hold the space that I felt that I needed in my life at that time. And like a true friend, I called and she was there, and I'm just very thankful for that. So I would love to welcome Nesha, new activator, to the platform. Please give her a very, very, very big round of applause. I'm just going to go off my phone so I don't drift off. But hello, everybody. Again, I'm Nesha. I don't know how she got me on the stage today. I'm like the shyest person ever. But I feel like my story is something that I want to share, because I know there's pure people out there that's, maybe going through the same thing, and they don't have the same support like I do from friends and family. So my story begins sometimes in life when you least expect it. You realize something important, all these things keep planning for or putting off later. You never really know longer, how you never know how long you're going to be here when you put those things off, or if you're going to accomplish those things. So that's where my story begins. We had just moved to Kansas. I'm originally from Columbia, Missouri, and I had moved back up here because when I was younger, I grew up here. Moved back up here, it was a big change. I worked at the university, campus dining for years. I've always been a person that worked hard. Being in a single family home, seeing my mom work hard. That summer, Jason had lost his mom, and Jason's my hubby. And so things were already kind of heavy. I started feeling really tired at work, and I'm a person that's always have a bunch of energy, and it was just like a different kind of tiredness. I kept telling myself, brushing off, oh, I'm fine, we're taking a big trip to Disney World, for Christmas. But on that vacation, I'm still tired. I'm not working. Why am I so tired? So I told myself, when I get back, I'm gonna go see the doctor.
We got back, I finally made that doctor's appointment. This whole time I had changed jobs, so sometimes it's hard to be able to afford insurance, but I was finally able to afford it. The most important thing I'm going to tell people is that your health is the most important thing in your family.
Yes.
So when you're not getting yourself checked out normally, things like this can happen. So I go in there and, they test me, they do exam and everything. And he's like, oh, it might just be your thyroid or something. I'm thinking, okay, I'm fine. I'm going to be okay. But the very next day while I was at work, the phone rang. It wasn't the nurse. It was the doctor himself. Right then I knew something was wrong. He told me your lab suggests you might have leukemia. I think it's CML, which is a chronic leukemia, something that's easier to treat. But if it's AML, which is a harder one to treat, we have to do some tests. They were saying they couldn't get me in a certain amount of time. So obviously I'm at work and this has happened. I'm getting a call at work. So I was like, I can't deal with this. I'm gonna have to leave. I told him. I get in the call. The first person I call is my mom. And I told her what's going on. She was just like, we're not gonna wait around. Until this day, I feel like my mom, she might have saved my life. She said, we're not waiting for more tests. I'm taking you to KU right now. When we got there, it felt like I was outside myself. Like my body was in the hospital, but I was watching a movie of my own life. At the doctor's office, when they had checked my white blood cells, they were 51,000. They're only supposed to be between 4 and 11,000. When they took my test there at KU, it was 74,000. So at that point, they said they seen the abnormalities. It was a good thing I was there because if you get so far, you can go into the AML. Even though I still don't know if that's what I have or not. So that night, they did a bone marrow biopsy, ran a bunch of tests and scans. There was doctors, nurses in and out asking me questions. This whole time, all I can think about is I have a 2-year-old at the time, Gio, and I have my 7-year-old Jayla. Will he even remember who I am if I'm not here? She's so smart and she's growing so fast. How is this going to affect her? So I remember the nurse coming in, they gave me a pill, and I would know those results in the morning. I'm looking at the board the whole time thinking, which one? Am I going to be here for 100 days or I'm going to go home the next day? Because that was the choice they took. And I would take a pill for the rest of my life. So the next morning, the nurse looked at me with a smile, saying that I know you're going to be okay. And that's when they told me that I was starting to kind of normalize out, like the blood counts. So the test came in, I had chronic leukemia. I thought about my godmother who fought and beat cancer twice. I thought about my aunt who raised my mom and passed away from breast cancer. One of the kindest and strongest women you could ever meet. Their carriage carried me. I remember asking my godmother one time, because I worked with her for years, seeing her work and go through the treatments. And I asked her, why does stuff like this happen to people who do right and have the kindest souls? Why do they go through this stuff? She told me, I can't tell you why, these things can happen to people. All I can tell you is you just have to push through it and know that God's not going to put too much on you that you can't handle. So I think the biggest change that I've had to endure is not being able to, work like I normally used to work. I work part-time. But at the same time, at that time, Jason's career kind of took off, all those years, he had a life where, he went to prison, but he worked his way out of that. Learned experience at one job that carried him on to a job that is able to take care of me, and I'm able to work part-time. So a couple of years ago, he told me one day, I finally have enough money, we can buy a house.
Nice.
I just want to say that change can be very hard, but sometimes change can make you open your eyes. Because sometimes you don't know, when your number is up.
Yeah.
You don't know what order you're in or anything. So living life and trying to accomplish everything that you want to accomplish is something that's very important.
Mm-hmm.
I went back and got my diploma. And this spring, I kept telling myself, I've been wanting to get into the pastry program at JCC. And I'm like, I can't because I work these hours. It's always in the morning. But God told me, it's not something like that. You can't just say you can keep putting it off, because you don't know, am I going to be here next year to be able to be in that, you know what I'm saying? So I got accepted. So this fall, I'll be going to the pastry program. Another big change is, there's 6 of us. I have 4 sisters, 1 brother. I'm the youngest. And when I was growing up, I wasn't probably always closer to the 2 oldest sisters I have. But my sister Kamika, my oldest, we've gotten closer. She checks on me. But sometimes I know sometimes people need to check on her. My sister Lisa, she lives in Arizona, but she's a person I can always call whenever sometimes the anxiety takes over. Because as you know, I still have a chronic illness. I still would deal with days where you're tired, your energy is low. You just can't do it. And sometimes those only people that can understand that is people who have gone through the whole, the same thing as you are. And that's one thing that I can say about my godmother is someone that got me through that situation, is being able to talk to her and understand, because she's been through that not only once, but twice. But also having my mom being a person that always takes action. And having my sister, a person that, had her own tragedy of being shot by her husband. But she's always a person that grounds me. So I just want to appreciate you having me up here.
Yeah.
I don't do speeches, but I feel like
You understood the assignment.
That's right.
having this conversation for people who, know how important it is that get what you can done, because you don't know when it's your time.
Absolutely.
So,
Yes. But do you see now we're getting a bigger view of how it works, right? Her aunt helped her get through, or her godmother, I'm sorry, helped her get through. And she probably never knew that she was then going to turn around and help me get through. And I'm sure many more, right? I'm just speaking through my perspective and my experience with her. But she helped me get through. And now I choose to go out of my comfort zone and step on stage and many stages to go and be that ripple for all of us, right? Everything that we have mirrored to each other, we then go take, and just by being us, we're spreading that on to others. So again, knowing that we're spreading, right? Knowing that what we ingest, we're going out and it's attaching onto things, people, and stuff. I just challenge everybody with that knowing and that truth. Let's do it on purpose. Let's make it a on-purpose choice to spread good, positive, nurturing stuff. And when we're feeling less than that, rely on the people who have showed you they're there for you in this walk. You're not a burden. You're not a burden to those who have chosen to be there for you. So utilize them.
Enough said, enough said. Thank you for sharing, Nesha, for stepping on stage and just being authentic and being courageous. You don't know how much change that, again, that can ripple into this community and your life and the lives of others. So thank you again. So I want to bring up our last speaker. This is Big Sis, person I've been known for a few years now, and she's the tuning fork sister. So she is very versed in tuning forks and dealing with emotional trauma and releasing the extra files that we store in our minds because of filing cabinets. I've had many sessions with her where I'm really have been shook from the core, and that has allowed deeper changes to happen in my life, at least the awareness of what I can do differently, different shifts and perceptions. So let's give it up for Valerie.
I have a prop. I was gonna put it down in front of you, but I'll have problems bending over. Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. I still got my props here, but it's been a bit of a journey the past few months. As I've opened up and shared things I don't usually share with people who are living outside of my head. I've activated my story and then shared other memories that as I activated forgiveness in ways I wouldn't have imagined. And I thank all of you so much for your attention and your support. I feel those sharings have built upon each other, and now they're providing another brick in the foundation for the next chapter, which is activating change. Now, my life has taken some interesting and totally unexpected out of the blue changes over the past few years, from meeting the love of my life, landing in Kansas City, where I'm convinced the engineers who laid the place out were on some serious drugs. And hanging out with a circle of powerful activators, and I definitely didn't see any of that happening. So the change that's coming up for me right now for activation is my feelings about aging. Now, I was born in the 1950s, which means I'm somewhere between the ages of 66 and 75. I won't say where, and the thing of it is, I've always played like games about my age. I developed pretty early on and always looked older than what I actually was. We grew up on military bases. We have these military, connections coming in here. But I grew up on military bases, and I would always have to show my ID when I went to the movie theater, because the person who took the ticket would just, kind of glare at me when I plunked down, like, the 2 quarters for the admission. And, it's like, and I guess that's another thing that shows how old I am, that it just takes 50 cents to go to the movies, right? And like, I've always had a weird relationship with age. I somewhere along the way, I heard that women especially were supposed to lie about their ages. And because I have a goofy sense of humor, I would always tell people I was older than what I was. And, because it was kind of fun to me to watch their eyes get wide. And when they'd say, "You're kidding," I'd say, "Yeah, I am." when they realized I was younger. But the last time I did that, though, the other person didn't respond in the usual way. And I was kind of crushed. You know, I realized that the years are beginning to catch up with me. So the change I'm activating now is my acceptance of myself as an elder. I'm also leaning into being silly in public and being more comfortable with calling attention to myself. Now there's a poem that I like called Warning by an author named Jenny Joseph, where she talks about things she will and won't do when she's an old woman. And I'll read a little bit about what she says. She says that when she's an old woman, I shall wear purple with a red hat that doesn't go and doesn't suit me. And I shall spend my pension on brandy and summer gloves and satin sandals and say we've no money for butter, which is not a big deal for me because I'm a vegan, as you know. I shall sit down on the sidewalk when I'm tired and gobble up samples in shops and press alarm buttons and run my stick along the public railings and make up for the sobriety of my youth, which I can really relate to because I was always like a deathly serious little Virgo child. I think we had other people talking about that. I shall go out in my slippers in the rain, pick the flowers in other people's gardens, and learn to spit. Now, purple is already my favorite color, but I have to say, I've never had a desire to learn how to project my spit. I will admit, though, that I've developed an affinity for the F word. Now, we weren't allowed to cuss or use bad words or language in the house I grew up in. And so it's only been in the past few years that I've come to appreciate the word. My goodness, or oh darn, just doesn't come anywhere near the emotional satisfaction of dropping a heartfelt F-bomb. So as I embrace these changes in this next and most likely final phase of my life on this physical plane, and stop shying away from attention the way I did when I was younger. This is part of that. I will end with my favorite color, purple. So this hat is based on ones worn by a recurring Star Trek character. I'm actually not like a Trekkie, you would think, because I know I've said that a lot, but I like the old Star Trek. But it's based on a recurring Star Trek character who is very old, and she's very wise and a wonderful listener, qualities that I've often been accused of having, and which I plan to activate even more as I embrace the changes that will come in the next phase of my life. So what do you think?
Lovely.
Thank you for listening. Namaste. Live long and prosper.
Yes.
All right, Valerie, thank you so much. I love your new crown. So we've heard a lot of great things today. Do you feel full? Yeah. Overflowing with gratitude for all of you and you sharing your authenticity, your story, your light, your laughter, your joy, and your pain. So just to kind of close us out, I would like to, again, ground us, invite us to take a breath. Then we're going to add a little movement in it, okay? To help shake it out. All right, so if you would like to gently close your eyes, again, roll those shoulders back, chin to neutral, and just take a deep breath in. And as you exhale, allow yourself to integrate all of the energy, the wisdom, and the story that you heard today, this morning. Allow the words that you heard to really resonate within you. What speaker or speakers really struck a chord or help bring you to a place of intentionality, of reflection, of gratitude, and of grace. And as you settle your mind on that, continue to breathe and allow your body to open up. Breathe into the bottom of your feet. Breathe into your legs. Breathe into your hips, your torso, your arms. And then finally, bring your breath through the top of your head. Breathe into the top of your head. Allowing that oxygen to refresh your body, refresh your mind and your spirit. When you're ready, gently open your eyes. I'm going to have you, if you're able, okay, do this to your comfort level. Just take your hands out in front of you. Have your palms facing. And then I want you to chop. Yeah, chop wildly, right? Shake it out. Shake out the energy in your wrists, right? I see some smiles. You're like, what am I doing? Yeah, shake it out. Really shake it, right? Now pause. Turn your hands, face each other. Wave. Hey. Good to see you all. And then lastly, this is my fun one here. Flop your wrists and then let them flop. Yeah, come on, Christina. Good. All right. And then bring your hands to your chest. And the light in me recognizes the light in you. As our friend Valerie said, namaste. And live long and prosper. Thank you. Izzy and Jane.
Thank you, everybody, again, for choosing to show up today for yourselves, for one another, and spending this time with us. It's, as always, it was wonderful. I have tons of notes and takeaways, and I hope that you do too. I do want to remind you that this is a part of a whole series. Every year we run a series, or we've ran multiple at times. But this year's series was activating your power. So we just kind of went simple with it this year, but simple but deep. And our next event is Activate Relationships. So, and that's September 20th. So remaining in this series, we have Activate Relationships, Activate Community, and Activate Your Voice. So we're going to go out with a bang with acknowledging the power of the voice. Which has been just life-changing for all of us who have chosen to step on the platform. We've said before to the new activators, you know, when you step up, you were going to come do Comedy Chris, and something within you, right, was you were inspired to share something a little deeper. Sometimes that vulnerability will come with symptoms that you'll experience, and sometimes we chalk it up to other things because we're working hard and stuff. But sometimes our body has to catch up with this new version of ourselves, that you're willing to project your truth and stand firm and confidently in who you are. So just know, if you start experiencing, you and Nesha or anybody, any feelings like that, or you start getting a little confusion before clarity comes through, then please reach out to anybody who you resonated with on the platform, and feel free to reach out to James and I as well to help walk you through that process.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for showing up. Last speaker, Valerie, thank you for, bringing us back to realizing that our biggest change, one of our biggest changes, is just being comfortable in our own skin. Thank you for bringing that. Thank you, Shannon, for helping us to be able to trust the process of life. With Eliasa, thank you for helping us to see that change is only a shift in perception and our ability to face adversity. Chris, for showing us that it's I, it's you, and it's also we, right? So bringing that forward, and Chuck, you bringing that positive message of being able to, step forward in a new direction with that motivation and that strength that you can't fail. So I know,
Jen
Levin, but she brings her message as well. So thank you everybody once again for coming to TLA, not TLA, 87 Spot Nutrition. We
Sister
were hosting
to
at TLA,
TLA.
so excuse me for that. But 87 Spot Nutrition and joining us in this space and just being open and being vulnerable and receiving authentic messages of change, of truth, of knowledge and understanding. We'll hope to see you in the future.
Yes. I'm going to end the live, but Chuck, he has a quick message for everybody